everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are at Haikyuu, Season 4, Episode 20. I'm recording this on Saturday. I wasn't able to record this yesterday, unfortunately, because of some things going on, but I'm recording it this morning, so just had my coffee and everything. I am really excited for this episode because we are getting into Kita, who is the captain of Inarizaki. I'm excited because it's a weird dynamic. I think this is the first time in Haikyuu that we've had a captain of a team not start a game. And he's the captain, so there has to be a reason why, right? So I'm really curious how the anime approaches this character, what they show us and everything. Obviously, as always, when we get done watching this episode, we'll do just a general overview and review of the episode and discussion, and then I'll do like a little spoiler corner for those of you that either don't care about spoilers or have read the manga as well. So, I am one little note about this episode today. Crunchyroll is awful for me trying to watch for reactions. It really is. It's either really slow and it lags, and I don't know if that's just my connection, or I also can't screen record Crunchyroll episodes for some reason. Anytime I try to do Crunchyroll or Netflix, it just shows a black screen and there's the text, but there's no image. So I usually go through other distributors like Funimation or Viz or High Dive if I'm going to record, just because I can screen capture those. So if any of y'all have suggestions on how you've seen other reactors caption record over Crunchyroll, please let me know, because I would like to use Crunchyroll because it's the high quality image, but instead I have to kind of farm out this like downloaded episode and I feel like a pirate. And I pay for Crunchyroll, so I shouldn't feel like a pirate, you know? But that's just, the reason I say that is that the episode I found to watch today, I don't think has, just by the time of it, I don't think it has the opening or the ending, the OP or the ED to it. So I apologize ahead of time for that, but so I won't be talking over those parts today. I'll just probably save that for the discussion, and we'll just go from there. And I don't think it has the preview for the next episode, so I really quick pulled up the preview. I haven't watched it. I just pulled it up so that it'd be there to kind of see at the end. So I don't know. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I love Haikyuu, so I'm so glad that you all are watching with us. There's only 6 episodes left. I'm like, there's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 left. We're halfway through this set. And I'm like, already? So we only have 6 episodes left, which is... And then we gotta wait for more Haikyuu, so... Sad times. But anyway, we're going to dive into episode 20. Thank you all so much for watching. There is a link to the reaction down below. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you, and let's dive in here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hero. Oh, and we get Kinoshita. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that was a good episode. I'm so glad that we've gotten into Kita's character. It's not a spoiler. There's a huge fan base for Kita, and I think this episode demonstrates exactly why. Like, Kita is such a combination of a lot of Haikyuu characters. He's like Daichi. He's the parental figure of the team, like constantly watching out for all the players. He kind of has this, he's such a combination because he has Daichi's like stoic parental role of like watching over all the characters. Like, he gets on to Atsumu about the serving, being like, are you going to just do what you're good at? Because you probably should. Don't be getting crazy now. Like you did with the quick, because it's not always going to work. He's like Daichi. He's similar to Ushijima in that he's just extremely honest and blunt. There's no mincing words with him. Like, he's just going to tell you straight up what you've done wrong and what you should improve on. So his talk to all the second years reminded me a lot of Ushijima giving advice to the teammates when he was leaving, because Kita's a third year, so this is his last year, and the coach makes a note of saying, like, the second years have they're problem children. The second years can get either aggressive or careless or too passionate, and they need somebody to rein them in, and Kita does that role. So he has like the Ushijima quality to him, the Daichi quality to him. But I love Kita of just, he kind of is, I saw someone on Twitter comment about this. he kind of is a little bit like Hinata, in not in Hanada's personality or anything, but just in the fact of what he represents, like representing working hard and devoting yourself to something to get better. And that's kind of similar because Hinata like throws himself into volleyball and he's really obsessed with it and wants to get better at it. And Kita is like just throws himself into his daily routine. He also has a bit of Kageyama in him where he does like the personal maintenance with his nails and just the routine. But Kita, even though he's combinations of all these different characters, he himself is such a unique presence in the series, and just showing how, despite he's not here for accolades, he's not here for applause, he just does stuff that feels nice. Like he likes his routine, he likes his schedule, he likes doing all these things because they make him feel good. And it's so sweet seeing him connect to his grandmother, and or just that task of working hard and doing well. And I like him talking to Iran and saying it's about the process, not the results. And that's such the moment of him getting his jacket, because they establish like he's been just working with the volleyball team just as a substitute, as just a stand-in, like just someone that helps out and is in the background often and isn't given any like due recognition. And then his third year, like his first team jersey, like they said he didn't play a game until this year, and the very first jersey he gets is the captain's jersey. And it's so sweet, like all that hard work he's done since middle school. And I love that tie-in where the grandmother, she's referring to like something spiritual like the gods, but she says someone's always watching. And we see that for Kita in the human world, whether you look at it through a spiritual lens or not, in the physical world, the someone that's always been watching has been the coaches, and they've been looking at him. And that's such a, I know that growing up, my own family would be like, there's always someone watching you. And when I did the speech team for forensics, our coach would always be like, you need to just always be professional. And, when you're at tournaments and stuff, have this very, judges are always watching, and they remember what you do. And so they're like, your actions will speak louder than your words. And so that Kita is such a representation of that. Like people watched him and they saw how dedicated he was and the power and potential that he has as a player and as a member of that team. And then he gets rewarded for it. And it's so satisfying in this episode to see a character like Kita be rewarded and be represented. Like it's just it's so good. He also reminds me, when he comes onto the court, of another character. I'm reading Slam Dunk right now for the first time, and I've read ahead a couple volumes to try to get caught up because of stuff that I've got scheduled. And there's a character from Shoyo's team, Fujima, that he reminds me a lot of. He reminds me a lot of the character Fujima. I'm like, especially when it comes on the court. Except Fujima in Slam Dunk, it has a lot of fear put aside of him. His team doesn't fear Kita; they intensely revere him. And they love him. And so it's kind of like they take his words to heart. So I really, really like that he's in there. There's a lot of setup in this episode and a lot of things being thrown out there. There's the talk of the second years, obviously, with Inarizaki. And there's a lot of second years with Inarizaki. I mean, you've got Aran and Kita are third years. But then you have Suna, Atsumu, Osamu, the number 5. They're all second years. And I think there's a couple first years on their team as well. But a lot of their players are second years for Inarizaki. And then on Krasno's side, you've got poor Nishinoya. Nishinoya is he's having a rough time from set 2 on because Atsumu is targeting him, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I love that Kinoshita, being the second year, is like, hey man, it's gonna be okay. You do this in practice, but we will get through it. And I love that Kinoshita, because in the last episode, everybody on the team, Krasno's team, was like, how do we cheer Nishinoya up? What do we do? And Kinoshita steps up and actually tries to do it. And it's like, And from the preview, it looks like there's going to be a little more focus on that. And I'm really excited because like Narita, Inoshita, and Kinoshita are second years that get no love. I'm like, I want more on them. And we got Inoshita earlier on in the series. We got more expansion of his character, so I'm excited that hopefully Kinoshita gets that same treatment. But yeah, Asahi being like, I suck at cheering people up, but I'm gonna try. And it's just, and then we get into this other dynamic of, so there's Nishinoya's struggle that he's trying to overcome right now during the game. We've lost the second set, which I think everybody could see that coming just by the gap. So now we're going into the last set, you know, like you do. But I think there's also this cool dynamic being set up between Kageyama and Tsukishima. Because at the end of the episode, Kageyama gets that awesome block on Iran, which is like, Kageyama he's so scary as a player because he's obviously an amazing setter and he's a good server. But then there's times like this where he comes in and blocks and just shuts the ace of Inarizaki down. Like a first year shutting the third year of Inarizaki down. Like just so blatantly, and making a statement with that is like, and Kageyama probably doesn't think twice about it. He's like, I'm just doing what I do. It's like, it's so cool. But I like there's this really interesting tension with Suna. Because Suna, this whole episode, keeps telling Tsukishima, he's like, why don't you come after me? Why don't you block better? Why aren't you getting more into this? Like, he wants the challenge from Tsukishima to be met. And then at the end of this episode, he's like, well, you know, Kageyama's a lot scarier than you are. And it's kind of like he's, like, internally laying a challenge down to Tsukishima. And I'm really, really curious about that. But Tsukishima, that panel where he's like, Hanada, I'm stealing your role from you. That was gold. Like, that was so good. But, yeah, so there's some interesting, going into this final set, we've now established Kita, his power as a player, which he's been taken out and Naran's been put back in. But we've got that established. There is the tension in Karasuno between Nishinoya being afraid and this dynamic between Kageyama and Tsukishima, which Kageyama and Tsukishima don't really like each other. So they probably, you know, there's a little competitive edge there. And then of course, Hanada's just standing there like with his yandere eyes, like wanting to get back into it. So, ooh, and I love the Mika and Daisho commentary. I know some people may not like them being here, but they're wonderful. And I love that Daisho, here's the thing about Daisho. He's a captain. He's no Heavy's captain, or he was. You know, he's a third year, so he's technically retired now from volleyball as a captain. But I love that he's a great commentator for this, kind of like Oikawa was in season 3, because you have, in the case of both Oikawa and Daisho, you have two captains who clearly have 3 years of volleyball experience, who are very tactical. And Daisho shows, like, he's explaining to Mika, like, how all these dynamics work and he's, like, strategizing with her. And you can tell he's really getting into it. And I think it's adorable that Mika, like, feeds that. She's like, oh, so it's like this? And he's like, oh, yeah. Like, he's afraid that he's talking too much. And she just doesn't care. She doesn't mind that he's talking too much. She's getting into it, too. And I'm like, you two are so wholesome and precious. I want to just, like, put you away. But, we're in the third set. And we have 5 episodes to go. So, yeah. I really liked this episode. I'm really, really excited to get into this third set, y'all. I do have some spoilers I want to talk about, but so if you want to stick around for the spoiler corner, please do. But otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction in this episode. Next week, I am going to try to get this episode... I'm going to try to record it on Friday because I actually have somewhere to go on Saturday and Sunday. So it's kind of like, So I'm going to try to get out Friday, hopefully, and then put it on YouTube for Saturday to try to get that done. Because I know that Saturday and Sunday I'm going to be busy. So, but anyway, if you're not sticking around for the spoiler corner, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all again soon. And then for those of you sticking around for the spoiler corner, oh my gosh, there's so much setup in this episode. When I was talking about Inarizaki in the second years, I was trying my hardest not to be a spoiler person, but it just hit me in this episode when Kita's talking and the coach is talking about the second years of Inarizaki. Because if you've read the manga, you know that we don't get to see it technically, but Furodate tells us that next year, during Atsumu, Osamu, and Suna's third year, they basically, I think they made it to finals at nationals. They made it to the finals. They beat Krasno the next year. They came back and they beat Krasno and made it to the finals. And I got the guidebook. It's back there on the shelf. And looking at the guidebook, we find out that Kamamedai, which we've not seen yet in the anime, but Kamamedai actually won finals Hoshiyumi's third year. And so it's like, cool. Inarizaki versus Kamamedai. Wish I could have seen it for Date. Thanks for giving us all these headcanons to like mull over. But yeah, so that's a really cool observation in this episode. If you know the manga going forward, you know that these second years that Kita whipped into shape actually did get whipped into shape and came around the next year and beat Krasno and made it to finals. So I'm like, it's a cool tie back. Like it all came full circle, and that's really neat. I like that a lot. I've got a couple things. So this episode went through chapters 72, 73, the end of it, 274, 275, 276, and then just barely touched on 277. So only like 4 chapters total, which is good pacing. Good pacing. We're only on chapter 277. We still got like, I don't know, like 18, 19 chapters to go. So, yeah, that's pacing wise, it's pretty good. Going through here, just things, there was just a few little things cut out. Again, we're not seeing Alba Josai and their reactions, which I'm sad because Alba Josai is like my team, but I do like that there is this commentary, and I've included it up here, where Shigeru is getting frustrated because Inarizaki has the momentum, but Kendaichi makes the comment, because Kendaichi's a middle blocker. He makes the comment, he's like, come on, Tsukishima, get it together. Don't let him get past you. So there's a lot of setup with Tsukishima in this episode, too. Like, it's very subtle. It's very, very subtle setup. At least for me, it feels subtle, unless you know what's going on. But Kendaichi's making the comment, like, Tsukishima, what's up? And Suna keeps saying, like, Tsukishima, come on. But there's this little panel here right before we go back to Hinata's yandere eyes and Suga being like, what the heck? Where they're talking about their defense being full of holes, and Kendaichi's getting on to Tsukishima. There's also a comment. I love Atsumu's expressions in these chapters, like that sneeze that his voice actor does, and then the way Kita calls him out. I love his expression in this panel, but I also like, there's a panel that was left out where it's very brief. It's just one panel, and you can see it up here, where, you know, Kuro's a really experienced middle blocker, and Kinma looks at him and is like, what would you do about number 10? And we don't get to hear what he says in response. He says, So it's kind of like setting it up for later on, like, what do we do about number 10? And I think it's really interesting that this episode was setting up. Suna keeps being like, come on, Tsukishima, meet my challenge, bring it on. And Tsukishima is so calm and collected that we don't really get to see what he's thinking yet. I'm really glad they left the Daisho and Mika commentary in. I was afraid they'd cut that, and I know some people watching will be like, that was boring, we already know about rotations and blah, blah, blah. But it's cute, and it shows that Daisho's, it shows that experienced captain. There was a commentary from the other pair, and I've included it up here. It was really brief. It was like 2 panels, but it was cut, and I get why that part was cut, because it's like we just had this giant explanation from Daisho and Mika about rotations. We didn't really need that from them as well. Okay, I will say this. One thing the anime has done better than the manga was Tsukishima's reaction to taking Hinata's spot. I'm sorry, but that expression from Tsukishima has probably been my favorite expression from him this entire season. Like, both parts 1 and part 2. And I've included the manga version up here. The anime does it so much more justice. I was like, oh my gosh, rolling. It was so good. I love when Salty Shima comes out. I love when Suki is salty. He's so wonderful like that. It's so good. It's just such a good panel. I love it so much. Yeah, that was... One thing I love about Tsukishima's character is that, you think that after a while, like, characters change. Not Suki. Suki is always going to be salty towards Hinata and Kageyama. And I love that dynamic doesn't, even when you see like images of them as third years, there's still that dynamic that he's not quite warmed up to them. I think that he does, for Hinata, he kind of warms up to him by the time we get to when Hinata comes back to play for Japan and all that. You can kind of see like when they meet up for dinner afterwards, and in some of the official art that Furudate's done, like Tsukishima doesn't seem like salty towards him. I still think he is towards Kageyama. I don't think they ever really get over each other's animosity towards one another, which is fine. That's reality. Some people just don't like each other. But I love where he gets all like, so, little giant, like, what do you think? Which Hinata's not the little giant. He's the greatest decoy. But yeah, I really like that panel. The only other thing I kind of noticed, and I didn't really see it in the episode, so if it was there at the end, I was so focused on Kageyama's block, and I'm wondering when we start episode 21 if they'll go back to that block. But there's a little part where Ukai is saying, we need to find a way to get some extra blocking in on there. So they kind of make Kageyama he's kind of like, Kageyama, you need to step up and try to block Iran, kind of like commit blocking. And that's what he does here. And he's a monster, so of course it works out pretty good. But I love in this last page this reaction. Kuro's reaction, he's like, ooh, and Daisho's like, ooh, and Tsukishima like, whatever. And Hinata's having flashbacks from middle school, like, oh god, yeah. And then there's the note that Krasno took the lead with that last block. Like they're now 3-2. So, oof. And then we went into Suna's little commentary, and that's interesting. Suna calling Tsukishima out and saying that Kageyama's scarier than Tsukishima. It's like, are you gonna eat those words? I don't know. But yeah, I'm so glad we're in the third set now because things are going to start coming together. It's going to start ramping up. I like that we get the focus with Kenoshina next episode. That's it's so good. Because when you think about it, this episode was very much about the underclassmen and kind of previewing like what will they do when the leaders are gone. For Inarizaki, Kita's their leader. When he's gone next year, they're going to have to step up. And they do. And in the case of Krasno, we've got Nishinoya, who's a second year, Kenoshita, who's a second year, Kageyama, Tsukishima, who are first years. Like, these underclassmen, once Asahi, Daichi, and Suga are gone, they're going to have to step up. And so it's just kind of showing these two teams and their underclassmen, and this match is just kind of foreshadowing, like, you guys are going to have to take the lead once your captains and your leaders are gone. And you'll have to become those leaders. And I think that's a cool thing to kind of note. But I also, total spoiler, but the whole time Kita's doing the like cleaning and everything, when we get to talking about the Black Jackals and Ms. B and Sakusa, I really love how we have Komori, Sakusa's cousin, and we have Suna, who I believe are on the same teams. I think Suna and Komori are on the same teams, or is it? Yeah, because Iran's on a different team. I think it's Komori and Suna are on the same team, and they're commenting, and Suna's making a comment about Kita and him being like cleanly and constantly taking care of everybody, and Komori makes the comment, he's like, man, he would really get along with Sakusa. And this whole episode, that's all I could think about during those montages. I was like, because Sakusa is like so precise and routine, and Kita is too. I'm like, where is that dynamic? I want these two to meet. I want Kita and Sakusa to meet, because they would totally be. Sakusa's a little more dramatic and diva-ish than Kita is, absolutely not, but I'm like, I need these characters to meet all at once. It's just, I kept thinking about that, so that was fun. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and this episode was great. I'm so glad that the anime community now gets to see Kita in all his glory, because our rice farmer, you can relate so much to Kita's struggles and his perseverance, and he's so inspiring as a character, I think, because he's like, I'm not a star player, I'm not amazing at volleyball, but you do something enough that it becomes like breathing. And I'm like, Kita. So, yes. And also establishing that Atsumu, I like that we also get some more establishment of Atsumu's character as well. He's super aggressive, super competitive, like just constantly wanting to win, hates losing. Very much kind of like the macho version of Kageyama, I guess. Maybe. So, but anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to comment down below. If you have spoilers, please tag them. But otherwise, I'll talk to y'all next week when we go into episode 21 of Haikyuu. See y'all. Take care. Have a great week. And I'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye.